The rain hammered down on the tent like 1,000 angry fists, turning the family camping trip in the Adirondacks into a soggy nightmare. Luke Thompson, a sturdy 45-year-old mechanic from upstate New York, bolted upright in his sleeping bag, his heart pounding as thunder cracked overhead. But it wasn't the storm that woke him. It was the muffled whispers and rustling from the adjacent tent where his stepson, Jake, was supposed to be sleeping alone. Luke had married Sarah 5 years ago, blending their lives in a modest suburban home in Albany. Jake, her son from a previous marriage, was 19 now, a quiet college freshman studying environmental science. Luke had always tried to be the father figure Jake needed, teaching him to fish, fix cars, and stand up straight like a man. But lately, Jake had been distant, spending more time with his phone and less with the family. Luke chalked it up to typical teenage rebellion, but tonight something felt off. He unzipped his tent flap quietly, not wanting to wake Sarah, who was snoring softly beside him. The beam from his flashlight cut through the downpour, illuminating the path to Jake's tent. "Jake, you okay in there?" Luke called out, his voice barely audible over the rain. No answer. Worry gnawed at him. Maybe a branch had fallen, or worse, an animal had gotten in. He trudged through the mud, his boots squelching, and pulled back the tent's zipper just enough to peek inside. What he saw froze him in place. Jake wasn't alone. Curled up next to him was another young man, their faces inches apart, hands intertwined. The stranger Luke recognized him vaguely as Tyler, a friend Jake had invited last minute from college. Leaned in, and their lips met in a soft, lingering kiss. Jake's eyes were closed, his expression one of pure vulnerability, as if this moment was a lifeline in a sea of confusion. Luke's stomach twisted. He dropped the flashlight, the light spinning wildly before flickering out in a puddle. He stumbled back to his own tent, rain soaking him to the bone, his mind reeling. This couldn't be real. Jake, his stepson, the boy he'd raised to be tough, to play football, to date girls like the cheerleaders back in high school, was kissing another guy. Luke collapsed onto his sleeping bag, Sarah stirring but not waking. How had he missed the signs? The late nights out, the avoidance of family dinners, the way Jake's eyes lit up when Tyler texted. It all clicked into place like a cruel puzzle. Morning came with a deceptive calm, the storm having passed, leaving behind a crisp autumn air and scattered leaves. Luke pretended nothing had happened, helping Sarah pack up breakfast while Jake and Tyler emerged from their tent, laughing about the weather. But Luke watched them closely, noting how Tyler's hand brushed Jake's arm a second too long, how Jake blushed and looked away. The drive home was torture. Luke gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white, his thoughts a whirlwind of anger, confusion, and betrayal. "Why didn't you tell me?" Luke finally blurted out that evening, after Sarah had gone to bed. He cornered Jake in the kitchen, his voice low but edged with steel. Jake's face paled, his green eyes widening in shock. "Tell you what?" he stammered, but Luke cut him off. "I saw you last night, with Tyler, in the tent." The words hung heavy in the air, and Jake slumped against the counter, tears welling up. "Dad, Luke, I didn't know how. I was scared." Scared? Luke felt a surge of protectiveness mixed with revulsion. This wasn't the life he'd envisioned for Jake. In their conservative neighborhood, where church picnics and backyard barbecues reinforced traditional values, being gay wasn't just different, it was wrong. Luke's own father had drilled that into him. Men were providers, women homemakers, and anything else was a sin against nature. But Jake was family. "We can fix this," Luke said, his voice trembling. "Therapy, church groups, whatever it takes." Jake shook his head, his voice breaking. "Fix me? There's nothing wrong with me. I love Tyler. I've been trying to hide it, but I can't anymore." The admission hit Luke like a punch. Love? This was a phase, a mistake born from college influences, liberal professors poisoning young minds. "Your mother can't know," Luke warned. "It would break her heart." But deep down, he knew this secret wouldn't stay buried. The family bonds were already fraying, and the real storm was just beginning. Over the next weeks, tension simmered like a pot about to boil over. Jake and Tyler grew closer, meeting in secret at coffee shops and parks, their relationship a fragile bloom in the harsh soil of secrecy. Luke monitored Jake's phone, grounded him under the guise of poor grades, anything to keep him away from Tyler. But each restriction only pushed Jake further away, his resentment building. Sarah noticed the rift, attributing it to typical father-son clashes. But Luke carried the weight alone, torn between loyalty to his wife and the urge to save Jake. One night, after a heated argument where Jake stormed out, Luke confided in his brother, Mark, over beers at a local bar. Mark, a devout Christian and father of 3, nodded sympathetically. "You gotta nip this in the bud. Bro, send him to one of those camps. I know a guy who runs a program, turns him straight." The idea sickened Luke, but desperation clawed at him. Was this the price of being a good father? Sacrificing Jake's happiness for what society deemed right? Jake, meanwhile, wrestled with his own demons. Coming out felt like jumping off a cliff without a net. He loved his family, but loving Tyler meant betraying their expectations. In stolen moments, Tyler urged him to be honest. "We can't live like this forever," Tyler whispered during a late-night call. "Your stepdad's controlling you." Jake knew he was right, but the fear of rejection paralyzed him. Little did he know, Luke was already plotting an intervention that would change everything. The intervention came on a crisp Saturday morning, 2 months after the camping trip. Luke had arranged it meticulously, inviting Sarah's pastor, Reverend Hayes, and a counselor from a local conversion therapy group to the house. Jake walked in from his morning run, sweaty and unsuspecting, only to find the living room transformed into a courtroom of judgment. Sarah sat on the couch, her face etched with confusion, while the others flanked her like sentinels. "What's going on?" Jake asked, his voice steady but his eyes darting nervously. Luke stood tall, his arms crossed. "Sit down, son. We need to talk." As Jake complied, Luke laid it out. The discovery in the tent, the secret meetings with Tyler, the unnatural path Jake was on. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Jake? Is this true?" Her voice cracked, and Jake's heart shattered seeing her pain. He nodded slowly, tears streaming down his face. "Mom, I didn't choose this. It's who I am." The room erupted. Reverend Hayes quoted Bible verses about sin and redemption. The counselor spoke of reparative therapy to realign desires. Sarah sobbed, caught between her love for her son and the faith she'd clung to since childhood. Luke, the architect of this ambush, felt a pang of guilt but pushed it down. This was for Jake's own good, to protect him from a world that wouldn't accept him. But Jake exploded. "You think you can pray this away? Therapy me into being straight? That's not love. That's control." He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Tyler was waiting in his car down the block, and they drove off to Tyler's apartment, where Jake collapsed into his arms. "They hate me," Jake whispered. Tyler held him tight. "They don't understand. Give them time." Back home, the fallout was immediate. Sarah turned on Luke, her eyes blazing. "How could you keep this from me? And this intervention? You're tearing our family apart." Luke defended himself, arguing it was to save Jake from a life of isolation and sin. But Sarah's doubt crept in. She'd seen stories on the news about the harms of conversion therapy. The suicides, the broken spirits. "What if we're wrong?" she asked quietly that night in bed. Luke had no answer, his certainty cracking under the weight of her words. Jake didn't come home that night or the next. He crashed at Tyler's, ignoring the barrage of texts from his parents. Tyler's family was different, supportive, progressive, having accepted his coming out years ago. "You can stay here as long as you need," Tyler's mom said, hugging Jake like her own. But Jake felt adrift, torn between the love he craved from his family and the authenticity he found with Tyler. Weeks turned into a standoff. Luke forbade Sarah from contacting Jake, insisting tough love would bring him back. But Sarah defied him, meeting Jake secretly at a diner. "I don't understand, but I love you," she told him, her voice trembling. Jake hugged her fiercely. "Mom, I need you to accept me, not change me." She promised to try, but the divide with Luke widened. At work, Luke's co-workers noticed his distraction, and when he confided in one, the response was mixed, some supportive of his stance, others calling him outdated. The pressure mounted when Jake's college friends learned of the situation. A social media post from Tyler about standing against homophobia went viral on campus, indirectly calling out Luke's actions. Whispers turned to stares, and Luke felt the sting of public judgment. His garage, once a haven, now felt like a cage. One evening, Mark called, urging him to double down. "Don't let the liberals win, Luke. Fight for your family." But fighting felt like losing. Jake, emboldened by Tyler's support, decided to confront Luke one-on-one. He showed up at the house unannounced, finding Luke in the garage tinkering with an old engine. "We need to talk," Jake said firmly. Luke wiped his hands on a rag, his face hardening. "Unless you're ready to get help, there's nothing to say." Jake pressed on. "Help? You mean erase who I am? Dad, I've hidden this for years because of people like you, afraid of what you'd think. But I'm done hiding." The argument escalated, voices rising. Luke accused Tyler of corrupting Jake. Jake countered that love wasn't corruption. "You're choosing him over us," Luke shouted. Jake's response was calm but cutting. "No, you're forcing me to choose." He left, leaving Luke alone with his tools and regrets. That night, Luke dreamed of the camping trip, the kiss replaying in slow motion. But this time, he saw Jake's happiness instead of his own horror. Sarah, witnessing the impasse, began researching LGBTQ support groups online. She attended a meeting secretly, hearing stories from parents who'd lost children to rejection. The tales hit home, stirring a maternal instinct stronger than doctrine. "We have to change," she told Luke over dinner. He resisted, but seeds of doubt were planted. Meanwhile, Jake and Tyler's relationship deepened, but the shadow of family strife loomed, testing their bond. As winter approached, the first real crack appeared. Luke's health faltered. A stress-induced heart palpitation landed him in the ER. Sarah, at his bedside, whispered, "Is this worth it? Losing our son?" Luke stared at the ceiling, the beeps of monitors echoing his inner turmoil. For the first time, he questioned if his principles were worth the price. Jake, sensing a shift through Sarah's updates, reached out tentatively via text. "Can we meet?" Neutral ground. They agreed on a park bench in Albany's Washington Park, autumn leaves crunching underfoot. Tyler offered to come, but Jake insisted on going alone. "This is between us." As Luke approached, he saw Jake not as the rebellious teen, but as a young man burdened by secrets. They sat in silence at first, watching joggers and dog walkers. "I'm sorry for the intervention," Luke finally said, his voice gruff. "I thought I was helping." Jake nodded, but his eyes were guarded. "Helping would be accepting me. Tyler makes me happy, Dad. Why can't you see that?" Luke shifted uncomfortably. "It's not easy. I was raised to believe." He trailed off, the excuses sounding hollow even to him. The conversation delved deeper, Jake sharing his struggles. Bullying in high school, the confusion of his first crush on a boy, the fear of disappointing his family. Luke listened, really listened, for the first time. Stories of his own youth surfaced. A gay uncle shunned by the family, dying alone. "I don't want that for you," Luke admitted. Jake's response was poignant. "Then don't be the one shunning me." They parted with an awkward hug, a fragile truce. But back home, old habits died hard. When Sarah suggested inviting Tyler to Thanksgiving, Luke balked. "Not yet. I'm not ready." The holiday arrived tense, Jake attending solo, the empty chair a silent accusation. Laughter felt forced. Conversations skirted around the elephant in the room. After dinner, Jake pulled Sarah aside. "I can't keep pretending. If Tyler's not welcome, neither am I." The ultimatum hit hard. Sarah confronted Luke that night. "Choose. Your pride or our family." Luke paced the kitchen, memories flashing, the wedding vows, Jake's first little league game, the camping trip that started it all. Pride had cost him dearly already. Was he willing to lose more? Reluctantly, he agreed to meet Tyler properly, not as the enemy, but as Jake's partner. The meeting was at a neutral coffee shop. Tyler, a 20-year-old art major with kind eyes and a nervous smile, extended his hand. "Mr. Thompson, thanks for this." Luke shook it stiffly, ordering black coffee while the boys got lattes. Small talk ensued, college, hobbies, but Luke steered toward the heart. "What are your intentions with my son?" Tyler met his gaze. "To love him, support him. That's it." As they talked, Luke saw glimpses of Tyler's character. Orphaned young, raised by grandparents, fighting his own battles with identity. Similarities to Jake's story softened Luke's edges. By the end, he didn't endorse the relationship, but he didn't condemn it either. "Just take care of him," Luke muttered as they left. It was a start, but society wasn't as forgiving. Word spread in their tight-knit community. Neighbors whispered, church friends distanced themselves. Luke's garage lost a few clients, bigots citing moral differences. The isolation mirrored what Jake had feared, turning the tables. Mark, his brother, called it betrayal. "You're going soft, Luke. What happened to family values?" Luke hung up, realizing values evolved. Jake and Tyler, encouraged by the progress, planned a small commitment ceremony. Nothing legal, just a gathering of friends to affirm their love. When invited, Sarah beamed, but Luke hesitated. Attending meant public acknowledgement, risking more backlash. He debated for days, weighing loyalty to his upbringing against love for his stepson. The ceremony was simple, in a friend's backyard under blooming cherry trees. Jake looked sharp in a button-down, Tyler in a vest. Friends shared stories, laughter filling the air. Sarah arrived early, hugging both boys. Luke showed up late, parking a block away, heart racing. He slipped in the back, watching as Jake and Tyler exchanged vows. "In a world that tries to tear us apart, I choose you," Jake said, his voice steady. Tears pricked Luke's eyes. This wasn't the perversion he'd imagined. It was genuine, vulnerable love. After, he approached awkwardly. "Proud of you, son." Jake's embrace was fierce, a dam breaking, but the moment was short-lived. Photos from the event leaked online, courtesy of a disgruntled acquaintance. Hate mail arrived at Luke's door. Traitor to God. Disgrace to manhood. The backlash intensified. Vandalism at the garage. Slurs spray-painted on the walls. Sarah stood by him, but the strain showed. Jake offered to distance himself. "I don't want to ruin your life." Luke refused. "No. We're in this together." But inside, doubt festered. Had he made the right choice? The community he'd built his life around was crumbling. As summer faded, a pivotal moment arrived. Reverend Hayes, the same pastor from the intervention, reached out. "I've been thinking, Luke, maybe we were wrong." A church schism was brewing, progressive voices challenging old doctrines. Luke attended a meeting sharing his story. To his surprise, others had similar tales. Hidden gay relatives, regrets over rejection. It was a turning point, but not without cost. The turning point brought uneasy alliances. Luke found himself advocating for change within his church, a role he never imagined. "Love thy neighbor isn't conditional," he argued in a heated session. Some nodded, others walked out. Reverend Hayes, swayed by personal reflection, supported him, but Mark severed ties, calling Luke a hypocrite. Family gatherings became awkward absences, the price of evolution steep. Jake thrived in the newfound acceptance. He and Tyler moved in together, a cozy apartment near campus. Jake's grades improved, his passion for environmental activism blooming. But scars remained. Therapy sessions helped unpack the trauma of the intervention, the years of hiding. "I forgive you, Dad," Jake told Luke over lunch one day. "But it hurt." Luke nodded, guilt a constant companion. "I know. I'm still learning." Sarah bridged the gaps, organizing family dinners where Tyler was included. Conversations flowed easier, topics shifting from weather to shared interests. Tyler's art impressed Luke, who even hung a painting in the garage. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered. When Jake announced plans to march in a pride parade, Luke froze. "You sure about that? It's public." Jake's eyes flashed. Hiding didn't work before. Why start now? The parade was a riot of color and noise in downtown Albany. Jake and Tyler walked hand in hand, banners waving. Sarah joined, waving a rainbow flag. Luke watched from the sidelines, anonymous in the crowd. Cheers erupted, but counter-protesters shouted slurs, a reminder of the world's cruelty. A bottle whizzed past, shattering nearby. Jake's group scattered momentarily, fear flashing across his face. Luke surged forward instinctively, shielding Jake. "Get behind me!" Security intervened, but the incident shook them. "Back home," Luke admitted, "I was scared for you." Jake hugged him. "That's why we march, to change that fear." The event bonded them but exposed vulnerabilities. Tyler confided in Jake later, "Your dad's coming around, but what if it's too late for us?" Strain from the family drama had tested their relationship, arguments flaring over Jake's divided loyalties. A betrayal loomed. Unbeknownst to Luke, an old client, bitter over the garage's pro-gay stance, plotted revenge. He leaked exaggerated stories to local media. Mechanic pushes agenda on customers. The article twisted facts, painting Luke as indoctrinating youth. Business plummeted. Bills piled up. Sarah suggested selling the house, but Luke refused. "I won't back down." Jake felt responsible. "This is because of me." He confronted the client, a burly man named Hank, at a bar. "Leave my family alone." Hank sneered. "Your family is a joke." The exchange turned physical, Jake shoved but holding back. Tyler pulled him away, but the damage was done. A video went viral, framing Jake as aggressive. The scandal escalated. College administrators questioned Jake's involvement, threatening suspension. Tyler, protective, urged him to fight back legally. But Jake hesitated, fearing more exposure. Luke stepped in, hiring a lawyer with savings he couldn't afford. "We're fighting this together." The lawsuit uncovered Hank's history of hate crimes, turning the tide. Public opinion shifted, local news running supportive pieces. Victory came, but at a cost. The legal fees drained them, forcing Luke to take a second job. Sarah's health suffered from stress, migraines keeping her bedridden. Jake distanced himself slightly, guilt weighing heavy. "I never wanted this for you." Tyler, sensing Jake's withdrawal, questioned their future. "Are we worth all this pain?" A climactic confrontation unfolded during a family therapy session Sarah insisted on. Emotions boiled over. Luke admitted his initial revulsion stemmed from fear of change, of losing control. "I thought being a man meant certain things. But you taught me otherwise." Jake confessed his resentment. "You almost broke me." Tyler, invited for the first time, shared his perspective. "Love shouldn't require sacrifice like this." The therapist guided them toward reconciliation, but mending was slow. As fall returned, echoing the camping trip anniversary, they planned a redo. No secrets, just healing. In the same Adirondacks woods, tents pitched under clear skies. Around the campfire, stories flowed freely. Luke raised a toast. To family, however it looks. But peace was fragile. Back in reality, societal pressures persisted. Jake's activism drew threats, anonymous calls in the night. Tyler considered moving to a more accepting city, like San Francisco. "We could start fresh." Jake wavered, torn between roots and freedom. Luke, overhearing, felt a pang. Had his acceptance come too late to keep them close? The decision loomed. Jake confided in Sarah, "I love Tyler, but staying here means constant battle." She encouraged him, "Follow your heart." Luke, eavesdropping, realized the irony. He'd fought to keep Jake normal, only to push him away. The move announcement came over Sunday dinner, Jake's voice steady but eyes downcast. "Tyler and I are relocating to California. Better opportunities, safer environment." Sarah's fork clattered, her face paling. Luke felt the world tilt. The boy he'd fought so hard to keep was leaving anyway. "When?" he asked hoarsely. "Next month. I've got a job lined up with an environmental NGO." Silence blanketed the table. Sarah recovered first, forcing a smile. "We're proud of you, honey." But tears betrayed her. Luke pushed his plate away, appetite gone. Later, alone with Sarah, he vented. "This is my fault. If I'd accepted him sooner." She held him. "We can't change the past, but we can support him now." Jake and Tyler packed amid mixed emotions. Friends threw a farewell party, toasts to new beginnings. Luke helped load the U-Haul, his back aching but resolve firm. "Call us every week," he insisted, handing Jake a toolbox, symbolic of lessons passed down. Jake hugged him tight. "Thanks for everything, Dad. Even the hard parts." The drive to the airport was somber, goodbyes laced with promises of visits. As the plane took off, Jake looked out the window, Albany shrinking below. Tyler squeezed his hand. "This is our fresh start." But Jake wondered if running solved anything, or just postponed the pain. Months passed. Video calls bridged the distance, Jake sharing tales of San Francisco's vibrancy. Pride events without fear, a community that embraced them. Tyler proposed on a foggy beach, a simple ring symbolizing commitment. Sarah flew out for the engagement party, Luke joining virtually, his smile genuine but wistful. Back home, Luke volunteered at a local LGBTQ center, channeling regret into action. He mentored parents like himself, sharing his journey. Acceptance isn't instant. It's a choice every day. The work healed him, mending the rift with Mark eventually, who apologized after his own son came out. But not all wounds closed cleanly. Sarah's migraines persisted, a reminder of the toll. Business recovered slowly, loyal clients returning. Luke reflected on the camping trip often, that midnight discovery a catalyst for upheaval. Had it not happened, would they have remained in blissful ignorance? Or would the truth have erupted worse? Jake's life flourished, career advancing, marriage plans underway. He invited his parents to the wedding, a small affair in Golden Gate Park. Luke and Sarah attended, Luke walking Jake down the aisle alongside Sarah. Vows exchanged, cheers erupted. In that moment, Luke saw not loss, but growth, a family redefined. Yet shadows lingered. At the reception, an old friend from Albany approached Luke. "Heard about the move. Shame he had to leave because of folks like us." The comment stung, highlighting the societal rot that persisted. Jake overheard, his joy dimming briefly. Later, he pulled Luke aside. "Was it worth it? All the fighting?" Luke pondered. "For you? Yes." But inwardly, he questioned the costs, the health scares, financial strains, fractured relationships. Had his initial rejection set this chain in motion, or was change inevitable? As years unfolded, the family adapted. Grandkids weren't in the cards traditionally, but Jake and Tyler adopted, Luke becoming a doting grandpa via visits. Life's rhythm stabilized, but the drama's echoes remained, a testament to resilience. In the end, the journey from that stormy tent to acceptance was paved with sacrifices. Each character paid a price. Luke his pride, Sarah her peace, Jake his roots, Tyler his patience. But through the pain came awakening, a deeper understanding of love's complexities. Was forcing change on someone you love ever justified, even if you believe it's for their own good?